wind howled like a wild animal across the Montana ranch. Snow fell so hard that Tom Bradley could not see past his own front porch. He had lived on this land for 40 years, but he had never seen a storm this bad. The weatherman on the radio said it would last 3 days, maybe longer. Tom pulled his thick coat tighter around his body. At 67 years old, his bones felt every cold wind that blew across the prairie. His wife Mary had died 2 years ago, and the ranch felt empty without her laugh filling the house. Now it was just him and his ranch hands taking care of 500 cattle. Sarah Martinez was his best worker. She had come to the ranch 5 years ago from the city. At first, Tom thought she would not last a week. City people usually did not understand ranch life. They thought it would be easy and fun. But Sarah was different. She worked harder than most men. She learned fast and never complained about the long days or dirty work. Tom looked out his kitchen window. He could barely see the barn through the falling snow. The cattle would be scared and cold. Someone needed to check on them and make sure they had enough food and water. But in weather like this, it was dangerous to go outside. A person could get lost in their own backyard. He made coffee and waited for morning. The storm had started the night before. By now, it had been snowing for almost 12 hours. The radio said the temperature was 20 degrees below zero. With the wind, it felt like 50 below. Tom tried to call Sarah on his phone, but the lines were down. The cell phone towers were not working either. The storm had knocked out almost everything. He was worried about her. 3 months ago, Sarah had told him some very bad news. The doctor said she had cancer. The worst kind. The kind that kills people. Sarah had asked Tom not to tell the other workers. She wanted to keep working as long as she could. Tom understood. Work gave her purpose. It helped her forget about the sickness for a while. But Tom could see she was getting weaker each day. She moved slower than before. Sometimes she stopped to rest when she thought no one was looking. The morning came gray and cold. Tom put on his heaviest boots and coat. He wrapped a scarf around his face and pulled a warm hat down over his ears. Before going outside, he tied a rope around his waist. The other end was tied to his porch. If he got lost in the snow, the rope would guide him back to the house. The wind hit him like a truck when he opened the door. Snow flew into his eyes and mouth. Each step was hard work. The snow was already 3 feet deep and still falling. Tom could not see the barn, but he knew the way by heart. He had walked this path thousands of times. It took him 20 minutes to reach the barn. Usually it was a 5-minute walk. When he got there, he saw that the big doors were open. Snow had blown inside. This was strange. Sarah always closed the doors at night. She was very careful about these things. Tom called her name, but the wind carried his voice away. He walked inside the barn, shaking snow off his coat. The horses were nervous. They moved around in their stalls and made soft crying sounds. The cattle in the nearby pens were bunched together for warmth. Then he saw her. Sarah was lying against the barn door. Her body was covered with snow. Her lips were blue and her skin was white as paper. Her eyes were closed. Tom thought she was dead. His heart started beating fast. He dropped to his knees beside her and touched her face. It was cold as ice, but then she moved. Her eyes opened just a little. She looked at him but did not seem to really see him. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Tom put his ear close to her mouth. "Sarah, what happened?" "Why are you out here?" She tried to speak again. This time he heard her voice, soft as a whisper. "The pain," she said. It hurt so much, Tom knew what she meant. The cancer was getting worse. The medicine the doctor gave her was not working anymore. She was suffering, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. He lifted her in his arms. She was light, much lighter than before. The sickness had taken weight from her body. Her breathing was shallow and weak. As he carried her toward the house, she spoke again. The words made his blood turn cold. "Just kill me fast," she whispered. Tom almost dropped her. He stopped walking and looked down at her face. Her eyes were open now, looking right at him. She was serious. She meant what she said. "Please," she whispered again. "Just kill me fast." Tom did not know what to say. He had never heard such words before. Not from Sarah, not from anyone. He started walking again, faster now. The snow seemed to fall harder. The wind seemed to blow stronger. The rope around his waist guided him back to the house. But his mind was lost in a storm much worse than the weather. Inside the house, he would have to decide what to do. Outside, the storm raged on, trapping them both in a situation that had no easy answers. Tom carried Sarah through his front door and kicked it shut behind him. The warm air inside the house felt good on his frozen face, but he was too worried to care about his own comfort. Sarah's body shook in his arms. Her teeth made clicking sounds as they hit together from the cold. He took her to the living room and laid her on the old couch that Mary used to love. Sarah's clothes were wet from the snow. Her skin was still white and cold. Tom knew he had to warm her up fast or she might die from the cold before the cancer could kill her. "Stay with me, Sarah," he said as he pulled off her wet boots. "You're going to be okay." But he was not sure if that was true. Sarah's eyes were closed again. Her breathing was so quiet that he had to watch her chest move up and down to know she was still alive. Tom ran to the bedroom and grabbed all the blankets he could find. There were thick wool blankets that Mary had made years ago. There were heavy quilts that had been in his family for 50 years. He brought them all back to the living room and covered Sarah from head to toe. Then he went to the kitchen and put water on the stove to heat. He found the bottle of whiskey he kept for special occasions. Maybe a small drink would help warm her from the inside. He also looked for anything that might help with pain. There was some old medicine in the bathroom cabinet, but he was not sure if it was safe to give to someone as sick as Sarah. When he came back to the living room, Sarah was awake again. She looked at him with eyes that seemed too big for her thin face. "Tom," she said in a voice like dry leaves, "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry," he said, sitting on the edge of the couch. "You have nothing to be sorry about." "I should not have asked you to do that," she said. "It was wrong of me." Tom did not know what to say. He had been thinking about her words since he found her in the barn. The idea scared him, but he also understood why she had said it. He had watched his own father die slowly from the same kind of sickness. It was not easy to watch someone you cared about suffer so much. "The pain is getting worse," Sarah said. "The pills don't help anymore." Tom knew this was true. He had seen her trying to hide the pain over the past few weeks. She would stop working and hold her side where the cancer was growing. Sometimes she would close her eyes and take deep breaths until the pain passed, but it was getting harder for her to hide it. "We need to get you to the hospital," Tom said. "The doctors can give you something stronger for the pain." Sarah shook her head. "The roads are blocked." "You said so yourself. No one can drive anywhere in this storm." She was right. Tom had heard on the radio that all the highways were closed. The nearest hospital was 60 miles away in Billings. Even on a good day, it took more than an hour to drive there. In this weather, it would be impossible. "Maybe the storm will stop soon," Tom said, but they both knew that was not likely. The weatherman had said 3 days. Maybe more. Sarah closed her eyes again. Tom could see that just talking was hard work for her. He put another blanket over her and checked to make sure she was warm enough. Her skin was starting to feel warmer, but she was still shaking. The house was very quiet except for the sound of wind outside and the soft noise of Sarah's breathing. Tom sat in his chair and watched her sleep. Sometimes her face would change, and he knew she was having pain even in her sleep. She would make small sounds and move under the blankets. Tom thought about his wife, Mary. When she was dying, at least they were in the hospital with doctors and nurses. Mary had good medicine for pain. She died peacefully without suffering. That was 2 years ago, and Tom still missed her every day. But at least she did not have to go through what Sarah was going through now. The phone was still not working. The electricity was still on, but Tom knew it might go out if the storm got worse. He had a generator in the barn, but it would be dangerous to go back outside to get it. He decided to wait and hope the power would stay on. He made some hot soup and tried to get Sarah to eat, but she could only take a few small bites. The smell of food seemed to make her feel sick. Tom ate alone while watching her sleep. The soup was good and hot, but it tasted like nothing to him. As the day went on, Tom could see that Sarah was getting worse. The blankets were keeping her warm, but the pain was growing stronger. She woke up more often, and each time she looked more tired than before. Sometimes she would ask for water, and Tom would help her drink from a cup. Her hands shook too much to hold it herself. "Tom," she said during one of these times, "if I don't make it through this storm, I want you to know that working here has been the best time of my life." "Don't talk like that," Tom said. "You're going to be fine," but Sarah continued. "After my divorce, I thought my life was over. I was 40 years old and felt like I had wasted everything. But coming here gave me a new start. You treated me like family." Tom felt his throat get tight. He had always liked Sarah, but he had never told her how much she meant to him. She had brought life back to the ranch after Mary died. Her hard work and good spirit had helped him get through the hardest time of his life. "You are family," he said finally. Sarah smiled for the first time since he found her in the barn, but then the pain came back stronger than before. Her face changed and she pressed her hands against her side. She made a sound that was part crying and part groaning. "Make it stop," she whispered. "Please, Tom, make it stop." Tom felt helpless. He wanted to take her pain away, but he did not know how. The medicine in the house was not strong enough. The hospital was too far away. All he could do was sit with her and try to keep her comfortable. As night began to fall, Tom realized they were facing a long and difficult time together. The storm showed no signs of stopping. Sarah's pain was getting worse, and somewhere in the back of his mind he could still hear her desperate words from the barn. "Just kill me fast." Night came early because of the storm clouds. By 4 o'clock it was already getting dark outside. The snow kept falling and the wind kept howling. Tom turned on all the lights in the living room to make the house feel warmer and more cheerful. But nothing could chase away the worry that filled his heart. Sarah had been sleeping for 2 hours, but it was not peaceful sleep. She moved around under the blankets and made small crying sounds. Sometimes she would call out names of people Tom did not know. Maybe friends from her old life in the city, maybe family members. Tom knew that Sarah did not have any close family left. Her parents had died when she was young and she never had children. Around midnight, Sarah woke up with a loud cry. Her eyes were wide and scared. She looked around the room like she did not know where she was. "It's okay," Tom said, moving from his chair to sit beside her. "You're safe. You're in my house." Sarah's breathing was fast and shallow. Sweat covered her face even though the room was not too warm. The cancer was winning the fight inside her body. Tom had seen this before with his father. Near the end, the sickness took over everything. "How long was I sleeping?" Sarah asked. "A few hours," Tom said. "Do you want some water?" She nodded and Tom helped her drink from a glass. Her hands were shaking worse than before. Some of the water spilled on the blankets, but Tom did not care about that. "Tom," Sarah said after drinking, "I need to tell you something. Something important." "What is it?" "I know what I asked you to do earlier. In the barn. It was wrong of me to put that on you. But I'm scared. I'm so scared of what's coming." Tom did not know what to say. He was scared too. Not just scared of watching Sarah suffer, but scared of the thoughts that were going through his own mind. When Mary was dying in the hospital, Tom had wondered what he would do if she was in terrible pain with no hope of getting better. He had never talked to anyone about those thoughts, not even Mary. "The doctor told me it would get bad at the end," Sarah continued. "He said the pain would be very strong. He gave me pills, but they're not working anymore. I finished the last of them yesterday." That explained why she had been in the barn. She probably went there to be alone when the pain got too bad. Maybe she thought she could handle it by herself. Maybe she did not want Tom to see her suffering. "We'll figure something out," Tom said. "When the storm stops, we'll get you to the hospital. They have stronger medicine there." Sarah shook her head slowly. "Tom, you know I'm not going to make it to the hospital. Look at me. I can barely sit up." Tom looked at her and saw that she was right. In just one day, she had gotten much worse. Her face was thin and pale. Her eyes looked sunken. Her breathing was getting harder. The cancer was moving fast now. "Don't give up," Tom said, but his voice did not sound very sure. "I'm not giving up," Sarah said, "but I'm also not fooling myself. I've been fighting this thing for months and it's winning. I can feel it." They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the wind kept blowing. Snow hit against the windows like small rocks. The house felt like a tiny island in the middle of an ocean of cold and darkness. Tom got up and put more wood on the fire. The flames made the room feel warmer, but they could not warm the cold fear in his heart. He had been in the army during the Vietnam War. He had seen men die in battle, but this was different. This was slower and crueler. When he sat back down, Sarah was looking at him with serious eyes. "Tom, I know this is hard for you. You're a good man. You've always tried to do the right thing. But sometimes there is no right thing to do." "There's always a right thing," Tom said, but he was not sure he believed it anymore. "Is it right for me to suffer like this? Is it right for you to have to watch?" Tom did not have an answer. In the army, he had been trained as a medic. His job was to save lives, to help people, to ease pain, but the army had also trained him to kill when necessary. He had killed enemy soldiers to protect his friends. Was this so different? In the old days, Sarah said, when animals were hurt bad and couldn't be helped, ranchers knew what to do. It was an act of kindness. You're not an animal, Tom said quickly. No, but I'm suffering like one. And just like an animal, I can't make the pain stop by myself. Tom stood up and walked to the window. He could not see anything outside except snow and darkness. The storm was still strong. They could be trapped here for days. I've been thinking about my life, Sarah said from the couch. I've had good times and bad times. The good times were really good. Working here with you has been one of the best parts. I don't want the bad times to be the last thing I remember. Tom turned around to look at her. She was sitting up now, holding the blankets around her shoulders. Even sick and in pain, she had a strength that amazed him. She had always been tough. That's why she had done so well on the ranch. What are you asking me to do? Tom said quietly. Sarah was quiet for a long time before she answered. I'm asking you to be my friend. My best friend. The kind of friend who won't let me suffer when there's no hope left. Tom felt like someone had hit him in the stomach. He sat down in his chair and put his head in his hands. This was the hardest thing anyone had ever asked him to do. Harder than anything he had faced in the war. Harder than watching Mary die. Harder than anything he could imagine. I don't know if I can do that, he said. I know, Sarah said. I'm not asking you to decide right now. I'm just asking you to think about it. If the pain gets too bad, if there's really no hope, would you help me? Tom looked at her and saw not just his ranch hand, but someone he cared about like a daughter. Someone who had brought happiness back into his life when he thought he would never smile again. Someone who was asking him to do something that went against everything he believed in. But maybe, he thought, it also went along with everything he believed in. Maybe helping someone you love meant different things at different times. The night stretched ahead of them, long and dark and full of questions that had no easy answers. Tom could not sleep that night. He sat in his chair watching Sarah rest under the pile of blankets. Sometimes she was quiet, and sometimes she made soft sounds of pain. The fire in the fireplace burned low, and Tom got up several times to add more wood. Each time he moved, he tried not to wake her. Around 3 in the morning, when the pain seemed to calm down a little, Sarah started talking. Her voice was soft, but Tom could hear every word in the quiet house. Do you remember the first day I came here? She asked. Tom smiled a little. How could I forget? You showed up in a bright red car wearing white pants and high-heeled shoes. Sarah laughed, but the laugh turned into a cough. I thought I was dressed for country life. I had no idea what I was doing. You asked me where the bathroom was before you even told me your name, Tom remembered. I had been driving for 6 hours straight. I was so nervous about the job interview that I didn't stop anywhere. Tom remembered that day clearly. It was 5 years ago in the spring. Sarah had answered his newspaper ad looking for ranch workers. Most people who answered the ad were young men who thought ranch work would be easy and fun. They usually quit after a week when they realized how hard the job really was. But Sarah was different from the start. She was 40 years old then, with long brown hair and a smile that made everyone around her feel good. She had just gotten divorced and wanted to start a new life somewhere far from the city. You hired me even though I had never been on a ranch before, Sarah said. You were the only one who asked about the animals instead of asking about the pay. Tom replied. That told me something about you. Tom remembered how hard Sarah had worked to learn everything. She got to the ranch every morning before sunrise and stayed until after dark. She asked questions about everything. How to feed the cattle, how to fix fences, how to tell when an animal was sick. She wrote everything down in a little notebook that she always carried in her pocket. The other ranch hands had laughed at her at first. They thought a city woman would never be able to do the hard physical work. But Sarah proved them wrong. Within a month, she was doing jobs that some of the men could not do. She was not afraid of anything. Remember the time I had to help deliver that calf during the thunderstorm? Sarah asked. You were covered in mud from head to toe, Tom said. But you never complained. Not once. It had been a difficult birth. The mother cow was having trouble and the calf was stuck. Tom and Sarah had worked for hours in the pouring rain to save both animals. When it was over, Sarah looked like she had been swimming in a mud pond. But she was smiling because both the mother and baby were alive and healthy. That was the night I knew I belonged here, Sarah said. I felt useful for the first time in years. Tom understood what she meant. After Mary died, he had felt lost and useless too. Taking care of the ranch by himself was hard work. But having Sarah there made it feel like a team again. She had a way of making even the worst days seem better. You remember the summer barbecues we used to have? Tom asked. Every Saturday night, Sarah said, and her voice sounded a little stronger. Mary would make her famous potato salad, and you would cook enough hamburgers to feed an army. Those had been good times. The whole ranch family would gather in the backyard. Tom would cook meat on his big grill, while Mary and Sarah prepared side dishes in the kitchen. The other workers would bring their families, and children would run around the yard chasing fireflies. There was always music and laughter. Mary loved having you around, Tom said. She said you made her feel young again. She taught me how to make her cornbread recipe, Sarah remembered. She made me promise never to share it with anyone else. She never even taught me that recipe, Tom said. I think she liked you better than me. They both laughed a little at that. Mary had treated Sarah like the daughter she never had. The two women would spend hours talking about everything. Cooking, gardening, books, movies. Sometimes Tom would find them on the porch in the evening, talking and laughing like old friends. She was worried about you after she got sick, Sarah said. She asked me to watch out for you. Tom had not known this. Mary had never told him about that conversation. But it made sense. Mary always worried about other people more than herself, even when she was dying. You did watch out for me, Tom said, especially after the funeral. I don't think I would have made it through that first year without you. After Mary died, Tom had gone through a very dark time. Some days he did not want to get out of bed. He stopped taking care of himself. He forgot to eat meals. He let the house get messy and dirty. But Sarah had quietly taken care of things. She made sure he ate lunch every day. She brought him dinner sometimes. She helped keep the house clean without making him feel bad about it. You were like a father to me, Sarah said quietly. The father I never really had when I was growing up. Tom felt his throat get tight again. He had felt the same way about Sarah. After his own daughter had moved far away and rarely called, Sarah had filled that empty space in his heart. You taught me that hard work could be fun if you were working with people you cared about, Sarah continued. You showed me what it meant to have a real family. Tom got up and put another log on the fire. The flames grew bigger and brighter, warming the room. When he sat back down, he saw that Sarah was crying. Not from pain this time, but from sadness. I don't want to leave this place, she said. I don't want to leave you. Then don't, Tom said, even though he knew it was not that simple. I wish it was that easy, Sarah said. But my body is giving up even if my heart doesn't want to. They sat quietly for a while, both thinking about all the good times they had shared. The sunrise mornings checking on newborn calves, the long summer days fixing fences and moving cattle, the quiet winter evenings when Sarah would come to the house for dinner and they would watch old movies together. Those memories felt precious now, like gold coins that Tom wanted to hold on to forever. But he also knew that no matter what happened in the next few days, nothing could take those memories away. Sarah had given him 5 years of friendship and hard work. She had helped him through the worst time of his life. She had made the ranch feel like home again. Now she was asking him for one last favor, the hardest favor anyone had ever asked. And Tom was beginning to understand that maybe, just maybe, real love sometimes meant doing things that scared you. The next morning brought no relief from the storm. If anything, it seemed to be getting worse. Tom looked out the kitchen window while making coffee and could not see past the fence that was only 50 feet from the house. The snow was now 4 feet deep and still falling. Sarah had slept a little after their talk about old times, but Tom could see that she was weaker when she woke up. Her skin looked gray and her breathing was more difficult. She could not sit up by herself anymore, and drinking water was hard work for her. Tom, she said around 10 o'clock in the morning, I think you should try to call Dr. Wells. Dr. Patricia Wells had been Sarah's doctor since the cancer was first found. She was a good doctor who cared about her patients. Tom had met her several times when he drove Sarah to appointments in town. The phone lines are still down, Tom said, but he decided to try anyway. He picked up the phone in the kitchen, and to his surprise he heard a dial tone. The phone company must have fixed some of the lines during the night. Tom quickly dialed the number for Dr. Wells' office. The phone rang 4 times before someone answered. Dr. Wells' office, this is Jennifer. Jennifer, this is Tom Bradley. I need to speak to Dr. Wells right away. It's about Sarah Martinez. Oh, Mr. Bradley. Dr. Wells has been worried about Sarah with this storm. She tried to call yesterday but couldn't get through. Let me get her for you. Tom waited, listening to the wind outside and Sarah's difficult breathing from the living room. After a few minutes, Dr. Wells came on the line. "Tom, how is Sarah doing?" "Not good, Doc, not good at all. She's in a lot of pain and she's getting weaker by the hour." "Is she still taking her pain medication?" "She ran out yesterday." "That's part of the problem." Dr. Wells was quiet for a moment. Tom could almost hear her thinking, "Tom, I'm going to be honest with you. Sarah's cancer has spread very quickly. When I saw her last week, I could tell she was entering the final stage." Tom felt his heart sink. He had known this was coming, but hearing it from the doctor made it real. "How long does she have?" he asked. "Maybe a few days. Maybe less. The pain is going to get much worse because the tumors are pressing on nerves. Without strong medication, it will be very difficult for her. Can you tell me how to help her?" "What can I do?" "Keep her as comfortable as possible. Keep her warm. Give her small sips of water if she can drink. But Tom, I need you to understand something. There's nothing you can do to stop what's happening. The cancer has won." Tom closed his eyes and leaned against the kitchen counter. He had been hoping the doctor would have some solution, some way to help Sarah feel better until the storm ended. "Doc, she's in terrible pain. She's asking me to—" Tom stopped. He could not say the words out loud. "What is she asking you to do, Tom?" "She's asking me to help her die, to end the suffering." Dr. Wells was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was very serious. "Tom, I understand why she would ask that. I've seen many patients in Sarah's situation. The pain can be overwhelming. But you need to know that what she's asking is illegal. It's also against medical ethics." "But what if someone is suffering and there's no hope?" Tom asked. "That's a question people have been asking for thousands of years," Dr. Wells said. "Different people have different answers. As a doctor, I have to believe that life is precious until natural death comes. But as a human being, I understand why someone in Sarah's situation might feel differently." Tom did not know what to say. The doctor was not really helping him figure out what to do. "Tom, are you still there?" "Yes, I'm here. I want you to know that Sarah is lucky to have you with her. Many people die alone. The fact that she has someone who cares about her is a gift. Sometimes the most important thing we can do is just be present with someone during their hardest time." "But what about the pain? How can I help with that?" "There might be some things in your medicine cabinet that could help a little." "Do you have any aspirin or ibuprofen?" "Yes." "You can give her some of that, but it won't do much." "Do you have any alcohol?" "I have some whiskey." "A small amount might help her relax, but be careful not to give her too much." Tom wrote down everything the doctor told him. But he knew that aspirin and whiskey would not be enough to help with the kind of pain Sarah was having. "Doc, what would you do if it was your family member?" Tom asked. Dr. Wells was quiet again. "That's not a fair question, Tom. I can't answer that." "Why not?" "Because I'm a doctor. I have to follow certain rules." "But you're not a doctor. You're just a man who cares about someone who's suffering." Tom thought about what she was really saying. She could not tell him to help Sarah die, but she was not exactly telling him not to either. "Tom, I need to ask you something." Dr. Wells continued. "Do you think you're in any danger? Sometimes people who are in great pain can become unpredictable." "Sarah would never hurt me," Tom said quickly. "I'm not talking about Sarah hurting you. I'm talking about you hurting yourself. This is a very stressful situation. Do you have anyone else you can talk to?" Tom realized that Dr. Wells was worried about him too. She was thinking about what this situation might do to his mind. "I'm okay," he said, but he was not sure that was true. "Promise me something." "Tom, promise me you won't make any big decisions while you're feeling emotional. Take time to think. Try to stay calm, I promise. And Tom, call me again if you need to talk. Day or night. I know this is hard." After Tom hung up the phone, he stood in the kitchen for a long time. The doctor had not really solved his problem. She had just made it more clear how serious the situation was. Sarah was dying, she was in terrible pain, and there was nothing anyone could do to change that. He looked through the medicine cabinet and found some aspirin and ibuprofen. He also found an old bottle of prescription pain pills from when he hurt his back last year. There were only 3 pills left, but maybe they would help Sarah more than the over-the-counter medicine. When he went back to the living room, Sarah was awake and looking at him with hopeful eyes. What did Dr. Wells say? Tom sat down beside her and took her hand. It felt cold and thin. "She said to keep you comfortable. She said you're lucky to have someone with you." Sarah smiled a little. "She didn't tell you how to make the pain stop, did she?" Tom shook his head. "No, she didn't. Sarah closed her eyes. I didn't think she would. Doctors can't say those things even when they know it's right. Tom gave her one of his old pain pills and some water. Within an hour, she seemed a little better. But he knew it would not last long. The medicine would wear off, and then what would he do? Outside, the storm continued to rage, trapping them both in a situation that was getting harder by the hour. The second day of the storm was the hardest day of Tom's life. Sarah's condition got much worse as the hours passed. The pain medicine he had given her helped for a while, but when it wore off, the pain came back stronger than before. She could not eat anything, and even drinking water made her feel sick. Tom felt like he was watching someone drown, and there was nothing he could do to save her. Every time Sarah cried out in pain, it felt like someone was stabbing him in the heart. He had never felt so helpless in his entire life. Around noon, Tom made a decision that surprised him. He went to his bedroom and opened the old wooden chest where he kept his most important things. Inside were his army medals, old letters from Mary, and his father's Bible. The Bible was very old and had been in his family for 3 generations. The pages were yellow and some of the words were hard to read. Tom had not opened the Bible much since Mary died. He had been angry at God for taking her away from him. But now, with Sarah suffering so much, he needed to find some answers. Maybe the Bible would tell him what was right and what was wrong. He sat in his bedroom and read for hours. He read about Moses and the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill was very clear. But he also read about Jesus helping people who were suffering. He read about love being the most important thing. He read about mercy and forgiveness. The more Tom read, the more confused he became. The Bible seemed to say different things about different situations. It said not to kill, but it also said to help people who were in trouble. It said life was precious, but it also said that sometimes death was a release from suffering. Tom remembered his father reading this same Bible every night before bed. His father had been a good man who always tried to do the right thing. But his father had also been a rancher who understood that sometimes mercy meant ending suffering. Tom thought about all the times he had put injured animals out of their misery. It was never easy, but it was the right thing to do when an animal was hurt too badly to get better. No one called that murder. Everyone understood that it was an act of kindness, but Sarah was not an animal. She was a human being with a soul and hopes and dreams. Did that make it different? Or did it make it the same? From the living room, Tom heard Sarah call his name. Her voice sounded weak and scared. He put the Bible back in the chest and hurried to her side. The pain is getting worse again, she said. Do you have any more of those pills? Tom gave her another one of his old pain pills. That left only 1 pill, and he was saving it for when things got really bad. But looking at Sarah's face, he realized that things were already really bad. Tom, Sarah said after taking the pill, I need to ask you something, and I want you to give me an honest answer. Okay. Do you think I'm a coward for wanting to die? Tom was shocked by the question. Of course not. You're the bravest person I know. Then why does this feel so wrong? Why do I feel guilty for asking you to help me? Tom thought about his answer carefully. Maybe because we've been taught that giving up is always wrong. But sometimes holding on is what's wrong. Sarah looked at him with surprise. You really think that? I don't know what I think anymore, Tom said honestly. All I know is that I hate seeing you suffer like this. I've been thinking about it too, Sarah said. About whether it's right or wrong. And I keep coming back to the same question. If I had a choice between dying peacefully now or dying in agony in 2 days, what would be the right choice? Tom did not have an answer for that either. When I was a little girl, Sarah continued, my grandmother lived with us. She had arthritis really bad, and some days she could barely move because of the pain, but she kept living because she thought it was what God wanted. She suffered for years before she finally died. What do you think she would have chosen if she had a choice? Tom asked. I think she would have chosen peace, Sarah said. She was tired of fighting, just like I am. Tom went to the kitchen to make some tea. While he was waiting for the water to boil, he looked out the window at the storm. It showed no signs of stopping. The snow was piled up against the side of the house. Even if he wanted to get Sarah to the hospital, it would be impossible. That's when Tom realized something important. The choice was not really his to make. Sarah was going to die either way. The storm had made sure of that. The only question was whether she would die in peace or in terrible pain. When he brought the tea back to the living room, Sarah was looking at him with calm eyes. Tom, I know this is the hardest thing anyone has ever asked you to do. and I know it goes against everything you believe in. But I need you to understand something. I'm not asking you to kill me. I'm asking you to help me die with dignity." Tom sat down and thought about the difference between those two things. Killing someone meant taking away their life when they wanted to live. Helping someone die meant easing their suffering when life was already ending. "How would you want me to do it?" Tom asked quietly. "I have some sleeping pills in my purse," Sarah said. "If I took all of them with some alcohol, I would just go to sleep. No pain, no fear, just peace." Tom felt his hands start to shake. This conversation was making everything real. They were not just talking about ideas anymore. They were talking about actual actions. "What if you change your mind?" Tom asked. "I won't," Sarah said. "But if I do, I'll tell you." "I promise." Tom got up and walked to the window again. Outside, the world was white and cold and empty. Inside, he was facing the biggest decision of his life. Everything he had been taught said this was wrong. But everything in his heart said that letting Sarah suffer was also wrong. He thought about Mary and what she would say. Mary had always been practical about difficult situations. She would probably say that love sometimes meant doing things that were hard to understand. Tom looked back at Sarah. She was watching him with tired eyes, waiting for his answer. He realized that no matter what he decided, he would have to live with it for the rest of his life. The question was, which choice would he be able to live with better? Tom did not sleep at all during the second night. He sat in his chair watching Sarah and thinking about everything they had talked about. Sarah slept only a little, and when she was awake, the pain was so bad that she could not talk. She would just hold his hand and squeeze it when the worst waves of pain hit her. Around 4 in the morning, something inside Tom changed. He had been going back and forth about what to do, but suddenly he knew. He could not help Sarah die, no matter how much she was suffering. It was not because of what the Bible said or what the law said. It was because of something deeper than that. Tom believed that every life had meaning until the very end. Even if Sarah was dying, even if she was in pain, her life still mattered. Maybe there was something important that would happen in her last hours. Maybe there was something she needed to learn or something she needed to say. Maybe there was a reason she was supposed to live until natural death came. Tom also realized something else. If he helped Sarah die, he would be taking on a burden that would destroy him. He would spend the rest of his life wondering if he had made the right choice. He would always wonder if Sarah might have gotten better somehow, or if the pain might have gotten less, or if help might have arrived just in time. But most importantly, Tom realized that giving up was not who Sarah really was. In all the years he had known her, she had never given up on anything. When she first came to the ranch and did not know how to do anything, she did not give up. When her marriage ended and she had to start over, she did not give up. When she got sick with cancer, she did not give up. The Sarah he knew was a fighter. The pain and fear were making her want to quit, but that was not really her. Tom decided that his job was not to help her die. His job was to help her fight until the end. When morning came on the third day, Tom made his decision. The storm was finally starting to weaken. The snow was still falling, but not as hard as before. The wind was not as strong. Tom thought that maybe, if he was very careful and very lucky, he could get Sarah to help. He had an old snowmobile in the barn. It had not been used for 2 years, but Tom thought it might still work. If he could get it started, he could use it to get to the main road. The main road was 5 miles away, but it would be plowed by now. From there, he could signal for help. Tom knew it would be dangerous. If the snowmobile broke down or if he got lost, they would both die. But it was better than giving up. It was better than watching Sarah suffer with no hope of help. "Sarah," he said, shaking her gently awake, "I'm going to try to get you to the hospital." Sarah opened her eyes. They looked very tired, but she was still alert enough to understand what he was saying. "Tom, that's too dangerous. The storm is still too bad. The storm is getting weaker. I think I can make it to the main road on the snowmobile. What if something happens to you? What if you get lost or the snowmobile breaks down?" "Then at least I will have tried," Tom said. "I can't just sit here and watch you suffer when there might be a way to help." Sarah tried to sit up, but she was too weak. Tom helped her by putting pillows behind her back. "Tom, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I think it's too late. I can feel my body shutting down." "It's not too late until you stop breathing," Tom said firmly. "And as long as you're breathing, I'm going to keep fighting for you." Sarah looked at him with tears in her eyes. "You're not going to help me die, are you?" "No," Tom said. I can't do that. But I can help you live as long as possible, and I can make sure you don't die alone. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled a little. You know what? I'm glad. I was scared to ask you to do that. It didn't feel right, even though the pain is so bad. The pain is going to end, Tom said. One way or another, it's going to end. But let's try to end it the right way. Tom spent the next hour getting ready for his trip to find help. He put on his warmest clothes and boots. He found his old army backpack and filled it with emergency supplies. Water, food, matches, a flashlight, rope, and a first aid kit. He also took his cell phone, even though it probably would not work. Before leaving, Tom made Sarah as comfortable as possible. He built up the fire so it would burn for several hours. He left water and the last pain pill within reach. He covered her with every blanket in the house. I'm going to find the snowmobile and see if it will start, Tom said. If it won't start, I'll come back and we'll figure out something else. Be careful, Sarah said. You're the best friend I've ever had. I don't want to lose you too. Tom kissed her forehead like a father would kiss his daughter. You're not going to lose me. And I'm not going to lose you. We're both going to get through this. The trip to the barn was difficult, but not as hard as it had been 2 days earlier. The snow was still deep, but Tom could see where he was going. The barn doors were still open from when he had found Sarah there. Inside, everything was covered with snow. The snowmobile was in the back corner under an old tarp. Tom pulled the tarp off and looked at the machine. It was old but had always been reliable. The gas tank was almost empty, but there was a can of gasoline on a shelf nearby. Tom filled the gas tank and checked the oil. Everything looked okay. He said a prayer before turning the key. The engine turned over once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th try, it started. The sound of the engine running felt like the most beautiful music Tom had ever heard. It meant hope. It meant that maybe, just maybe, he could save Sarah's life. Tom let the engine warm up for a few minutes, then drove the snowmobile out of the barn. The snow was deep, but the machine was powerful enough to push through it. Tom pointed it toward the main road and began the most important journey of his life. Behind him, in the warm house, Sarah lay under her blankets and listened to the sound of the snowmobile getting farther away. For the first time in days, she felt something she had almost forgotten. She felt hope. The trip to the main road was the longest 5 miles of Tom's life. The snowmobile moved slowly through the deep snow, and several times Tom thought he might get stuck. The wind was still strong enough to blow snow in his face, making it hard to see. His hands were so cold inside his gloves that he could barely feel the handlebars, but Tom kept going. Every few minutes he would stop and look back toward his house. He could not see it anymore, but he knew Sarah was there waiting for him. That thought gave him the strength to keep pushing forward through the snow. After 2 hours, Tom finally reached the main road. Just as he had hoped, the snowplows had been through. The road was clear except for some blowing snow. Tom parked the snowmobile on the side of the road and took out his cell phone. To his surprise, he had 2 bars of signal. He called 911. 911, what's your emergency? This is Tom Bradley. I live on a ranch off Highway 87. I have a very sick woman who needs to get to the hospital right away. What's wrong with her? She has cancer and she's dying. She needs strong medicine for pain. We've been trapped by the storm for 3 days. Are you on Highway 87 now? Yes, at mile marker 23. Stay where you are. We'll have an ambulance there in 20 minutes. Tom could not believe it had been that easy. He had expected to wait for hours or maybe to have to drive farther to find help, but the ambulance was already on its way. While he waited, Tom called Dr. Wells to tell her what was happening. Tom, you did the right thing, she said. I'll meet you at the hospital. We can give Sarah much better pain medicine there. Is she going to be okay? Tom asked, even though he knew what the answer would be. No, Tom, she's still going to die, but we can make her more comfortable. We can take away the pain. When the ambulance arrived, Tom rode with the paramedics back to his house. The ambulance could not get all the way to the house because of the snow, so Tom led the paramedics on foot for the last quarter mile. Inside the house, Sarah was unconscious. Her breathing was very shallow and her skin was gray, but she was still alive. How long has she been like this? One of the paramedics asked. About an hour, Tom said. She was awake when I left this morning. The paramedics worked quickly to stabilize Sarah and get her ready for transport. They gave her oxygen and started an IV in her arm. They also gave her a shot of strong pain medicine. Even though Sarah was unconscious, her face relaxed when the medicine started working. The lines of pain around her eyes disappeared. She looked peaceful for the first time in days. Getting Sarah back to the ambulance was difficult, but the paramedics had a special stretcher that could move through snow. Within an hour of Tom's phone call, Sarah was on her way to the hospital. At the hospital, Dr. Wells was waiting for them. Sarah was taken to a special room where people who were dying could be comfortable. The room had soft lighting and comfortable chairs for visitors. There were no machines making noise, just quiet music playing softly. Dr. Wells gave Sarah medicine that took away all her pain, but let her stay conscious when she wanted to be. For the first time in weeks, Sarah could talk without hurting. "Tom," she said when she woke up that evening, "you saved my life." "No," Tom said, sitting beside her bed. "I just made sure you didn't die alone and in pain." "That's the same thing," Sarah said with a smile. "You gave me back my dignity. You gave me back myself." Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah had many visitors. Other ranch workers came to see her. Dr. Wells stopped by every day. The hospital nurses treated her like family. Sarah was still dying, but she was no longer suffering. Tom spent most of his time at the hospital. He brought Sarah books to read and music to listen to. They talked about all their good memories from the ranch. They laughed about funny things that had happened over the years. They cried a little too, but they were not tears of pain. They were tears of love and gratitude. "Tom," Sarah said one day near the end, "I need to thank you for something. You don't need to thank me for anything." "Yes, I do. I need to thank you for not doing what I asked you to do in the barn that day." Tom looked at her with surprise. "You're not angry that I didn't help you die?" "No," Sarah said. "I was scared and in pain, and I wasn't thinking clearly. But you were right to say no. These last 2 weeks have been some of the best days of my life." "How can you say that? You're dying." "But I'm dying with love around me. I'm dying without pain. I'm dying with dignity. That's all anyone can ask for." Sarah died peacefully on a Tuesday morning with Tom holding her hand. Her last words were, "Thank you for helping me live." At the funeral, Tom spoke about Sarah's courage and strength. He talked about how she had faced her illness with grace. He talked about how she had taught him that sometimes the hardest decision is to keep fighting when it would be easier to give up. After the funeral, Tom went back to his ranch. The house felt empty without Sarah, just like it had felt empty after Mary died. But this time, Tom was not angry or bitter. He was sad, but he was also proud. He had faced the hardest test of his life, and he had chosen to protect life instead of ending it. Tom kept Sarah's room at the ranch exactly as she had left it. Sometimes he would go in there and sit in her chair. He would remember her laughter and her hard work and her friendship. He would remember how she had made his life better just by being in it. And sometimes, when the wind was blowing across the prairie and the sun was setting behind the mountains, Tom would hear Sarah's voice carried on the breeze. Not the scared, pain-filled voice from the storm, but her real voice. Strong and happy and grateful. "Thank you for helping me live," she would say, and Tom would smile, knowing that he had made the right choice.